Recently, I've been discovering what one of my biggest adversaries is. It isn't a human or a beast, but a concept that haunts so many. It's the concept of groupthink, when everyone follows an idea without questioning it. It haunts many fan bases, many ideologies, and many communities around common stances. The only world fortunate enough to ward it away for good is peer-reviewed science. I've always talked about groupthink ravaging the ideas of the politically correct, since scrutiny and fair competition are the weaknesses to circle jerking. But it's time I put my money where my mouth is, and make sure it doesn't happen for the other side. This role seems a tad thankless, but somebody's gotta step up and say something when the time comes. I'm gonna need an antidepressant if I keep going for dramatic intros like this. Anyways, I'm no stranger to how skeptics riff videos when they find problems with them, and I know how crass comedians can be when they tear apart a video. But there's an extent in which that harsh demeanor negatively impacts the entertainment value of the video. Or worse, it can fail to cover up when your point ain't so good. So that's why I've got a video by the Satirtician. In fact, I made the groupthink intro because this is actually a video that got guest featured by another dude named Dapperton. I wasn't meaning to hit two birds with one stone, but I suppose that's the way this will go.
Oh hey babes, Lacey here. It is a sweaty LA night, the perfect time to talk about trigger warnings.
The only time I want to hear about you being hot and sweaty is if you're drowning in your own sweat. And the only trigger warning that you should be worried about is not wanting people to pull the trigger once they've got you in their sights.
And that's when I realized I was surrounded by the sweatiest tryhards in the entire goddamn server. Once again, I know saying shit in a crass manner is the norm here, but I fail to see how this effectively resonates as a joke. I could think of alternatively going, yeah, get down and dirty with them trigger warnings on a hot night like this, baby. I mean, SJWs aren't seen as mature in their sexuality, so that would theoretically still be off-putting to someone.
Potato ice cream. Sexy.
The problem with this statement is the same problem with a lot of critiques of trigger warnings on the internet.
Ooh, I don't know if critique is the right word. That implies the idea had merit. I think backlash from sheer stupidity works better.
You're implying you can't use some basic and well-warranted reasoning to refute why trigger warnings don't work in academic environments. But you totally can! Here, let me do it and fulfill Brandolini's law for you. Getting triggered is the mental equivalent of an allergic reaction. With victims of post-traumatic stress, having people constantly overact to benign stimuli instead of getting on with their lives is not a viable long-term solution. And that's assuming that inexperienced college hipsters even have PTSD, since that comes off as an extraordinary claim. You know it's a problem when a yutz that's more moderate like me can run circles around you when it comes to backing a point. Shit, you could have summed that up in 1 or 2 sentences easy and made a joke out of it.
Demanding trigger warnings when you have things like these. Do you remember these? Why create a worse system to replace something better? And created by people far more intelligent than you.
What? Time out, time out. You realize you're basically trying to use apples to make orange juice, right? The whole issue here is applying an arbitrary and faulty form of mature content warnings towards academic discussion. What would be accomplished by making it as structured as the ESRB or the MPAA ratings for films? If anything, it would be more useful towards orchestrating the censorship of ideas that college students should be exposed to. We're not dealing with parents of children wanting to make sure they know what video games involve ballistic bloodbaths and dropping F-bombs. We're talking about a place where an advisory system designed to help with young audiences has no place. Yeah, your tone of condescension doesn't work too good when your reasoning falls behind, huh?
Well, this sucks.
Trigger warnings exist to give someone a little bit of a buffer before confronting them with information, graphics, whatever that may be deeply painful and upsetting.
You mean like these systems that we already have in place? Now, I know you're about as bright as a black hole, but even you must have seen these before.
Oh, certainly. Let's apply mature content advisory info towards grown-ass men and women hearing about real-ass shit. How much you emphasize this point actually is remarkable.
They are specifically used in populations which may be experiencing higher levels of trauma to help them cope, compartmentalize, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, because that's totally the way to move forward. To hide away from anything that might be remotely triggering. Not confronting your problems under professional guidance. No, obviously not. They need to be patronizingly treated like children and kept safe from bad words.
Now, I think where things got a little bit more complex and thus more controversial is when they were translated for usage in the blogosphere.
You said they were to prevent people from experiencing trauma or some such nonsense. Why exactly in your limited mind would it be considered controversial to extend this to platforms some delicate snowflakes might stumble across?
Do I actually need to play devil's advocate for this? Even if something was done out of good intentions, complicating the matter can have people getting concerned over it fast. If you want to make sure something is done right, then you'd talk about it when a hurdle might make valuable actions ineffective. Jesus Christ, this isn't difficult to understand.
Now you have online communities that want very specific trigger warnings, people talking about very specific things. I don't think it's up to me to say, oh, people overuse trigger warnings or whatever.
No, it's not up to you. If anything was up to you, I'd give the planet about a week, and that's with some generous rounding up.
What the fuck do you mean it's not up to her to state an opinion? My fucking lord. She says some of the most inoffensive shit in the whole damn video, and you jeer as vehemently as that? Dude, what is your deal?
But I do think the demand for really specific trigger warnings in very general settings has been used to undermine the legitimacy and value of trigger warnings as a whole.
Well, thanks, Lacey. That's a good idea to help get rid of trigger warnings. Just make up so many about absolutely nothing until no one takes them seriously or even reads them.
Boy! That's the exact opposite of the point Green was trying to make. Lacey was saying, I won't call trigger warnings overused, but wanting to use them in general settings has been delegitimizing that shit. Now, if you did smart people things like wear shirts and be smart, you wouldn't have countered that with, oh, so you want to overuse that shit so nobody gives a fuck? Here, let me make the right point for you. Green, while that is an understandable concern, avoiding the use of trigger warnings in general settings is a pretty incomplete solution. Let's say we restrain trigger warnings to the blogs along with particular settings. If it still faces poor or overly extensive usage, it could get a fucked up reputation all the same. It wouldn't be nearly as bad, but the risk still remains. What was so difficult about that?
Germa in the bathtub giving a peace sign with a duck face.
Censorship is not the answer to social justice problems.
Well, I'll agree that censorship is never the solution to any problem. And whenever I hear the words social justice, I hear lynch mob justice. There really isn't that much difference.
What? No, come back here. That's all your point was? Agree and then take a jab at social justice that doesn't amount to an overall point? Wait, hold up. I did 2 interjections in a prior video that could work for this point. Remember my Ashley Mardell commentary? Bring that here and use the flaws I recognized with feminism for social justice. Thanks to concepts like intersectionality, dissent has been unfairly brushed off, with the guys responsible needing to check their privilege regardless of their reasoning. Can you think of other movements in which college students scream away different opinions at public events, like at University of Massachusetts Amherst? I mean, these figures that viciously tried to eliminate their competition on social media platforms don't look like anti-feminists to me. I would dare say one of the biggest problems that people have with modern-day feminists is the notorious habit to thought police others.
But instead of having our audiences fight the fight for us, we can open our ears and minds and listen, learn, and discuss.
Agreed, but, never mind. Once again, even I can do something like this. And that's the thing. You see, me covering videos like this is a hobby. I haven't accepted a cent for doing stuff like this, and me contesting the ideas in other people's content is done out of obligations I created for myself. But you, Satirtician, seem to treat your video production more highly. Yeah, I saw you offering to accept donations earlier. I won't blame you for wanting to do a show like this, but I will blame you for doing it wrong with this video. The half of the video I spoke against is exactly what I worry about with people disputing the politically correct. This style sacrifices rationality and showmanship with counteracting ideas in order to, for lack of a better term, talk shit. I see this in your self-summary where you prize concepts like academic progress and reason, but I don't see too much of the latter. What I see is someone trying too hard to make a class clown out of someone that handed you ideas to counter on a silver platter. I'm not saying you have to come across as a moral superior to social justice proponents. What I am saying is that, as a provocateur, you have a responsibility to be a critic that can't be ignored by the lesser side. You may seem a bit abrasive and uncouth, but you shouldn't be wrong, all rudeness aside. You should be showing how to give social justice some good competition, not just for academic progress, but for the people you're setting an example for. I'm talking about people like Dapperton that look up to you, man. I know I won't win over most people by being pretty moderate, but hey, it's what I do.